Hey guys, this is Legolas Fanboy, and welcome back to Interactive Horror Stories. Let's get on to the third one, Crystal Skull. You are a king who is loved by his people. You have a serious problem though. Your only child, Juliana, has an incurable disease and she is dying. You hear about a crystal skull which can cure illnesses and let people have visions. It is brought to your palace from the continent of America, but your man warns you that the skull might be cursed. Will the crystal skull bring health to the princess, or doom? Crystal Skull. Being a king is hard. Being a good king is even harder. You know this well as the sole ruler of a European kingdom in the age when America is discovered. It has been 25 years since you ascended the throne. Your subjects are content with your rule, your country is in peace, and the people are wealthy, but there is something wrong with your life. Your daughter, Juliana, is ill. She's only 18 years old, and she has got an illness that nobody could cure yet. The princess is dying, and she is your only child, and heir to the throne. Every doctor you could find tried to cure her. You tried almost everything. Almost. You have been informed about a miraculous artifact unearthed in the continent of America. It is a human skull made out of crystal. It amazes the scholars because no method is known to carve up such an excellent shape of a skull out of crystal. This skull doesn't belong to the world that you know, but to an ancient civilization that has been lost. But what amazes the scholars is not just the impossible creation. The skull is told to bring miracles to whom it touches it with their bare hands. Some people tell that they saw visions from the future. Some tell that they saw how the human race has originated. And some tell that the skull can cure their illnesses. Those couldn't be cured with the medication available to your era. Naturally, you ordered your best men to bring the miraculous skull to the palace. It's midnight now. You are in Juliana's chamber. She's lying in her bed, holding your hand as you sit by her bed. No candles are lit inside. The full moon enlightens the princess's chamber, shining on her long blonde hair and blue eyes. She is too weak. Her skin is pale. She has under eye bags showing her illness. You already suffered the loss of your wife 10 years ago. Now you can't stand seeing your only daughter slowly die. Juliana asks with a soft voice, "Father, am I going to die?" "I won't allow that," or eventually yes. "I won't allow that." She smiles. "I know, Father. You are a mighty king. I know that you will do the best by your subjects and me." The door of the chamber is knocked on. The servants generally do not disturb the royal family members at night, so it must be something important. "Come in." A brunette boy, one of your servants, gets inside the chamber with politeness. He looks at you and says, "Your Majesty, the artifact has been brought. You had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Go to the artifact or kiss Juliana's forehead. I will come back." Just to reassure her that you know she's going to be alright, just tell her that you're going to come back. After you kiss Juliana's forehead and say, "I will come back," she brings your hand to her pale lips and kisses it. Then you leave Juliana alone in her chamber. At the exit of Juliana's chamber, you see Sir William, one of the knights that was appointed with the task of bringing the ancient skull. He is a strong man with black hair and a round beard. He wears gloves and holds a bag. "Your Majesty," he says, and kneels before you. Signal him to stand up. "Let's go to my study chamber." Sir William follows you as you walk to your study chamber. The chamber is well lit with silver candelabras. All the furniture are classy. It's a king's study room after all. There is only one chair. It is for you. You sit on it. Sir William stands by you and slowly pulls the artifact from his bag. You push the books on the study desk to open space for the artifact. "Here it is," he says, and gently puts this crystal skull on the study desk. The skull is truly a masterpiece, if it is crafted by humans. All the details of a human skull are imprinted with care on raw crystal. Lights coming from the candles are refracted inside the crystal, gaining various colors of a rainbow. It is magnificent, but you sense something sinister, something that doesn't belong to our world. Touch the skull, or did you, knights, touch the skull? Ask them if they've touched it. Yes, we did touch the skull with our bare hands, and we all had visions. We took glances from our futures. Some of us saw how they will die. Some of us saw our grandchildren. He continues, but maybe we shouldn't have touched the skull. The day we were about to leave, a native man came to us. He looked like the chief of his tribe. He knew little of our language, but he shouted some words that we could understand. Cursed! No touch! So we haven't touched the skull with our bare hands again. I know that our princess needs to find a cure. I also know that we received reliable information about the magical powers of this skull when it comes to incurable diseases. But Your Majesty, I have got a bad feeling about this skull. I believe that the wise decision is to throw this skull to the sea. I can't let Juliana die. She will touch the skull. Or, I trust your insight. Let's do it. Do I want to risk something with my daughter? Or do I want to just go with what the guy says because of the native man and their own stuff? Well, it's certainly hard because, you want your daughter to live, but you're also afraid something bad might happen to her. And it is called interactive horror stories, but let's just go on the side that we don't know this is a horror story in the making. We just know that our daughter's sick and we've tried everything. We don't want her to die because we've already lost our wife. The knight sighs. As you wish, Your Majesty. But if you're going to bring the skull to her, I wish you would wear gloves. Touch it with bare hands or wear gloves. I'm just going to wear gloves. That makes sense. You look for gloves around the study chamber. So William pulls his own gloves off. I think you wish Juliana to touch the skull as soon as possible. Let's not wait for servants to find your gloves, he says, and gives them to you. You wear the gloves and hold the crystal skull with your covered hands. Let me bring the skull to Juliana. You thank Sir William for his services and let him go. You carry the skull to Juliana's chamber. You enter her chamber and see that she hasn't slept yet. She rises up and sits on her bed. She looks at the skull in awe. It looks marvelous. And scary, she says. You approach Juliana and let her touch the skull. As Juliana touches the skull, she closes her eyes and doesn't react to anything in the external world. You understand she is having a vision. After 10 seconds, she opens her eyes with a gasp. I saw things. I don't know how to describe them. They were pitch black creatures, so ugly. Their eyes, they were red as flames, and they all stared at me. She starts to cry. Please, keep this thing away from me. Please! And I want to be alone. So you decide to keep the skull in your study room and let your daughter sleep. After this tiring day, you go to your chamber. There are no guards at the door. You just trust everybody in the palace. You are a loved king. The furniture are luxurious in this chamber too. You take a glance at your reflection in the mirror. Examine myself, of course. You take pride in how you look. You are a middle-aged man, but you still look as handsome as you were when you were young. Your looks are an important factor that makes you a charismatic leader besides being fair and wise. Time for sleep. You wear your nightgown and get in your bed. It is a bed for 2 people, but you haven't slept with anyone since your wife passed away. You have a secret that you keep from everyone. Sometimes you hug the second pillow in your bed, as if it was someone you love. You do this since you've done this since your childhood. Nobody needs to know it. It doesn't take long for you to fall asleep. Father. You wake up to Juliana's voice. She gently holds your shoulder. You look at her. She has a happy smile on her face. Her skin is not pale, but saturated with life. She no longer has bags under her eyes. I feel wonderful. She takes a few steps back and starts dancing. You laugh with happiness, stand up, and hug her. Juliana walks in the corridors of the palace, dancing and laughing. You and the people of the palace are very happy to see her this way. She used to be like a ghost before. You plan a feast and invite all the lords of the kingdom. A few days later, every lord arrives to the capital city to celebrate the health of the princess. At the feast, Juliana is the center of everybody's attention. She talks with everyone joyfully, makes jokes, makes people laugh. When the feast is over and it's midnight, everybody goes to the chambers reserved for them. You accompany Juliana to her chamber, you put a kiss on her forehead before letting her sleep. Then you go to your own chamber and fall asleep in peace. You wake up to the sound of the knocking on your chamber's door. It's still night. You wonder who dared to wake you up at this hour. Do I want to open the door or do I want to ignore it? Well, I don't have any guards, so it's not them. But that might mean it's not good. Maybe it's my daughter. Let's open the door. It's the same brunette boy who has informed you about the arrival of the skull. Your Majesty, I am deeply sorry for disturbing you at this hour, but there is something wrong. There is laughing sounds coming from the princess's chamber. It's her voice, but it doesn't sound normal. Let me check it, or I'm sure it's nothing important. Of course I want to go check it. Crazy? You walk to Juliana's chamber. Like the servant said, hysterical laughters come from inside. You decide to enter. Ooh, that's creepy. You see Juliana at the balcony of her chamber, facing back at you. She laughs under the pale moon. You approach her and put your hand on her shoulder. She turns back to you. Her face is normal, smiling. Just when you're going to ask her if she is okay, she responds, I know it looks funny, Father, but I am fine. Please leave me alone, she says. She stops laughing, gets in her bed with a smile on her face. You decide to leave her alone. You go back to your chamber. You can't sleep. You feel something is wrong. So wrong. The door of your chamber opens. There is only one person who is allowed to enter without knocking on the king's door, so you understand that it's Juliana who entered. Like you guessed, you see your daughter's silhouette. She closes the door and approaches you with a smile on her face. Juliana? She leans down to you and gently pulls the other pillow that you don't use. Juliana is dead, she says, pushing the pillow on your face. You struggle, but whoever or whatever is trying to kill you is too strong. The king is dead! Long live the king, she shouts. Why is your own daughter committing patricide, regicide, and referring herself as king rather than queen? That doesn't make sense at all. That is the end of your reign. End life. The end. There are 3 endings. Alright, let's do one more. That was a good story. It makes sense, because, they said it was cursed, so maybe something actually happened to her, maybe it was like a demonic possession, or maybe it was just like some cursed skull that just cursed her. But let's try to get at least a second ending. It's a little different here. Just gonna skip through this, go to the first part. Am I going to die? Tell her eventually, yes, you will die. She sighs. It is so sad. I am a princess with ambitions, ambitious to become a ruler, and it is certainly not about personal gain. I want to continue what you do. I want to be a fair ruler and make our people happy, she continues. But I think this is life. Death conquers all. The door of the chamber is knocked on. The servants generally don't disturb the royal family members at night, so it must be something important. Come in. Alright, so we're back to the fact that it's here. Just go to the artifact, don't kiss her. At the exit of Juliana's chambers, you see Sir William, one of the knights, those appointed with the task of bringing the ancient skull. He is a strong man with black hair and a round beard. He wears gloves and holds a bag. Your Majesty, he says, and kneels before you. Alright, let's go to the chamber. And let's just touch the skull myself. As you are about to touch the skull, Sir William holds your hand and prevents you from touching the skull. Your Majesty, I think I need to tell you something about the skull before you touch it. The day we were about to leave, a native man came to us. He looked like the chief of his tribe. He knew little of our language, but he shouted some words that we could understand. Cursed! No touch! So we haven't touched the skull with our bare hands again. I know that our princess needs to find a cure. I also know that we received reliable information about the magical powers of this skull when it comes to incurable diseases. But your majesty, I've got a very bad feeling about this skull. I believe that the wise decision is to throw this skull into the sea. Let's trust him this time. I trust your insight. Let's do it. I am glad that you agree with me, your majesty. So he packs the crystal skull back into the bag. You two get outside the palace and get on your horses to ride to the docks. When you reach the docks, Sir William finds stones and fills the bag with it. Then he throws the bag, your only hope for curing Juliana, to the bottom of the dark sea. I know how hard it must be, but maybe this is best for all of us. You hope that he is right. The end. Alright, well, that was 2 endings there. I'm not sure what the third one is, but I'm running out of time for today. So, that was the Crystal Skull, the 3rd out of 6. And I think I'm going to continue the story or the series just because I really like how these are going. You know, a little bit of interactive sounds in the background. Not a whole bunch, but enough to make it interesting. And the stories aren't, like, super scary, but they're interesting enough to... I feel like I can give the developer enough credit to post the rest of these stories. So, thank you guys. If you liked it, hit the like button down below. As always, subscribe and leave a comment. And as always, guys, have a rockin' day.